Hello everyone, welcome to the Metal Galaxy YouTube channel, where we bring reviews, interviews and the Metal Galaxy news into your living room. Tune in and subscribe and like, as we have regularly new content about new releases, and this time I'm going to talk about a new release and stay on Irisfell to review one of the most iconic and complex bands in the Irish scene, God is an Astronaut, a band who technically doesn't belong in the metal scene, yet it resonates with the metal audience, especially the extreme ones. So in order to understand this connection and the mindset to revisit and recreate the end of the beginning, I sat down with Thorsten Kinsella, the man behind God is an Astronaut, and the interview had quite an interesting angle, as Jamie Dean, the man who started out as a fan of God is an Astronaut and became later on a full-time member as keyboardist and guitarist, joined the TED as well. So if you want to check the interview out, you can just follow the link below. And yeah, in this chat I gained really interesting insights about what the band is about, how they connect with the audience, as well as what the whole idea was behind the beginning of the end. On the base of this, I will review the latest release, beginning of the end, and I will discuss the following topics: the release of the beginning of the end, the music, the videos, and in the end, I will just give a summary. So grab your booze, tune in, and enjoy this review on the beginning of the end, re-releasing the album. So the whole idea of releasing the end of the beginning started out during pandemic. There were no gigs, as we all know, and in order to replace this missing feeling, God is an Astronaut decided to release a live album that sounds as you're actually there, and it was a great opportunity for the band because recently they've moved their sound to a much more live one, whereas in the past they were much more studio based. Actually, it all started out as an electronic project between Niels and Thorsten Kinsella, and just creating music in their studio. And nowadays they're just a full-time band. And yeah, apart from this, it was a very special moment for them to go back in time and visit the end of the beginning, because this was an album where the band was really struggling to keep their head up. At that time, they weren't successful after a couple of albums and tours, and they were starting to think if it would be better to just disband. And this was as well a very dark time, because in 2000, an apocalyptic culture, people were thinking that the earth might die and that is it. And as well, the Gulf War, the Iraq invasion was happening at this time. So a lot of things happening, and a milestone for the band, because after the end of the beginning, the band started to be successful and they became a live band as we know. The beginning of the end is a whole different interpretation than the original one. The music. The musical reinterpretation of the end of the beginning is quite an interesting one, because the whole song structure and music itself was adapted to fit a live set environment, and as a result they are both different experiences, and as well there are different interpretations. This makes it very hard to say which is my favorite one, as they are both handling a different album. So the original one, it's much more focused on musical capabilities, on the instrument itself rather than the whole sound, whereas the new one is much more focused on live experiments, just giving you a taste what it is to see God is an Astronaut playing live. And due to these different experiences, it's hard to say which one. It wouldn't be also fair to say which one is my favorite one, as both albums are 20 years apart. So a lot of happened during musical production, but as well the members themselves, they grow as musicians. But if I have to make a choice, I'm leaning towards the new one because the new one is much more organic, much more alive, and I love the atmosphere that this album really represents. In general, if we discuss generally speaking the newest album, it's quite deceiving because at first when you listen to the album, you think everything is perfect. There is so much sophistication, so much maturity in this album. The instruments fit with each other. They're correctly in place. There are a lot of nice shifts going on. The album is dynamic, and also everything seems just to be fine-tuned, but nothing is true. When you really listen closely to the album is full of imperfections slip out of the musicians, and the band have done this on purpose to make it more alive and organic. And I believe it's a very clever and intriguing strategy because this very element really sucked me into this album. It's the first band without focus I could listen from beginning to end, and I couldn't just get enough because I can get anywhere this amazing listening experience. So yeah, the beginning of the end is full of musical imperfections. Let's now talk about the themes. Another thing that quite deceiving is the themes itself. If you listen to the music, it's post rock. It's very soft. It's very like soft, calm, but the topics it handles they're quite dark and broody. It's all about it handles suicide, depression, supernatural, war, loss of war, death, and dread. So no happy topics. And apart from this, it's centered about two dark main events happening in 2000, the apocalyptic culture that I already mentioned earlier on, and the Gulf War, Iraq wars. And there are actually one song that really ties into it, and that's Coda. Coda is a song about escaping these events and just go to a place safe of imaginations. However, not everything is dark and broody in this album. There are some lighter ones as Route 666, but this light theme is overshadowed by Of the Devil's Right Out, which is kind of a BBC horror movie. And and these lighter songs give you the time to digest the heavy topics. Take a breathe in and just think what you've heard, and then the next song you're thrown back to the dark and broody topics unused. And I love this thematical approach as it is in sharp contrast with the music. And this sharp context is a match in heaven and makes it possible for you to just being sucked into the album because the music brings you calmly, slowly into the atmosphere, and how deeper you go, how more you sucked in, and you start absorbing more and more emotions, and it starts weighting to down you, and you start to feel in a melancholic mood. But it's amazing because you're starting to feel emotions. The album feels so alive, telling a story with a focus, just instrument and setting an atmosphere. It just connects on so many ways with you, the listener. And I think this is the very reason why it's so attractive for extreme metal listeners, as it really holds you in a grip and gives you some emotion on a plate. It displays the brutality of life without making any compromise at all. And as a result, it offers something you haven't ever heard before. God is Run Out makes an emotional connection no other band has ever done before. The videos. The beginning of the end comes with 3 videos. So the videos are From Dust Beyond, Coda, and Route 666. And each video has the same like style. They're dark, broody, black and white, and each song displays the emotion of the theme of the song itself, and it also like visualize what you're hearing, so it enhances basically the listening experience. And as a result, you are making even a much more emotional connection. In summary, The Beginning of the End is a superb album as it gives you a listening experience that you haven't heard before. Without replacing the original one, The End of the Beginning, it interprets and brings emotions across in a way you've never experienced. To enhance all this, it comes with great stylish videos that suck you into this album even more. And the cherry on the cakes are really the themes that are greatly in contrast with the music and present dark and broody topics, giving you the brutality of life without making any compromise. The music itself, with the theme combined, creates an emotional connection as no other band has ever done before. And I agree, it might be a bit dark and broody and too much for a mainstream audience or for those who can't handle all these emotions that are served in this album. But if you are up to it, have the time, just sit down and listen to this album, as in no way you'll be surprised, and in no way there is an album that sucks you into the album itself, makes an emotional connection, and is so greatly done and produced as God is an Astronaut, The Beginning of the End. So God is an Astronaut is the most emotional band around, so grab your copy of The Beginning of the End and subscribe and like, as we will be back with more content and news from the Metal Galaxy soon. Bye, see you next time.